Yay! Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show. My name is Brenna. I'm your host, and today we have a wonderful, beautiful, lovely, talented uh, former client named Dana. I'm really excited to invite her in and ask her some questions. I started working with Dana a couple months ago, but Dana is a very successful, powerful, intelligent woman who's also a loving wife and mother. And she came to work with us a few months ago. Her body was out of balance from a lot of the stress, right? She's a very high performing woman and she has a lot of stress on her, right? When it comes to, I'll let her introduce herself so I won't get ahead of myself. But I'm excited to, ask her about her experience. She has a lot of good things to share. So welcome, Dana, to the show today. How are you?
Good. Hi.
Good.
My name
Can
is
you tell
Dana.
everyone a little bit about you? I would love for you to share a little bit about what you do as far as your career, your skill sets, your expertise. I did a little research, so I'll share a little bit about you too. But if you could share a little bit first, I would love everyone to hear what you do.
Okay, so I'm a CPA. Not really sure how I was going to be an engineer. I went to an engineering high school and then took an accounting class and was like, why would anybody go into engineering when you can do accounting? So I've been a CPA for a very long time. I did continue education for a long time, and now I'm working in audit guides and stuff like that. So, yep, super, super fun.
Dana's pretty modest. I looked her up on, of course, I looked up her LinkedIn. So she's a CPA. She's a certified public accountant. She received her bachelor's in business administration and accounting and her master's degree in science and accounting from the University of Texas at Arlington. She also has many additional certifications, which she didn't really mention. And she has a lot of work experience. So she's a very qualified woman. Don't let her small introduction fool you in any way. But yeah, thank you, Dana. Dana came to work with us a few months ago, like I said, to rebalance her body really from the effects of stress and just being imbalanced. The years of stress from her high performance career really started taking a toll on her life, on her body, right? Which is what we're going to be talking a little bit about today. And as I said, she's very driven, she's very successful. And she, with all this going on with her job and her career, over time, this stuff wears your body down. So she came to work with us, really dug in herself though, and did the work. She put in the effort with a lot of the principles that we teach. We're going to talk a little bit about today, but she's an A player and really showed up to do that work. But her body was really, taking a toll after all the years of just doing so much for her family, her friends, on top of a very demanding career, a lot of education. That's a lot of time investment. And it's really easy to put yourself and your body on the back burner. So, Dana, I would love for you to share with us when you came to us a few months ago, where were you emotionally? Like, what did you do to cope with a lot of the stress, right? Because we all do that when you're stressed and you're working so much. What did you do to kind of cope or numb and wind down at the end of the day and just throughout your life? Like, what methods would you use to handle stress specifically?
Before I came, yes. Okay, I tried everything. Positive reinforcement, tapping, looking on the bright side, journaling. Oh my goodness. Everything that was just anything you could do. I don't take sleep aids or anything like that, but anything you could do positive reinforcement, but the tapping and I thought I had control over it, really did until I came here and realized I don't. And oh my goodness, it's been a huge difference. So
I'm surprised that you did so much. I was expecting you to say Netflix, I would just come home and just veg, like, just kind of tune out, like, put something in the oven and just kind of sit on the couch and not move. I was not surprised. I was not expecting you to say all the tapping and journaling. That's amazing. But yeah, I know a lot of people actually don't do a lot of that stuff. They haven't tried all of what you've tried. But yeah, exactly. You tried a lot of different things. That's really interesting. Yeah, tapping. I've done some tapping. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like, there's stress is quite, it's a mountain, and to learn how to kind of process it, and just deal with it. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Um, well, I want to share with you guys a myth that I know a lot of women specifically will kind of tap into, men too, but women. And I would love for Dana to talk about if this myth affected her and kind of bust this myth for a lot of you women. So the myth I know a lot of women can kind of get into is quote unquote, I can't feel certain emotions, right? I can't feel maybe this emotion like fear or worry or not feeling enough, right? Because I'm a successful, powerful woman. It goes against my identity. I don't want to feel these emotions because I really need to be able to be at high performance, and I need to push forward and kind of ignore these feelings, so I can be strong and successful, right? I can show up in my A game, in my health, in my career, in my relationship. So, Dana, what's your experience kind of with this version of this myth, that a lot of women believe? I mean, how have you shifted this myth of feeling like you kind of have to just be strong and push down and just be that kind of powerful pushing forward and not really tuning in and letting yourself feel what's there?
Okay, that would be rushing everything. So basically, you have to just keep moving forward no matter what, right? So if there's an obstacle, the question wasn't, what can I do to maybe I need to take a step back. It was, what can I do to push through to make it happen?
Yeah,
Um,
which I think is pretty clear with Dana. Dana's
yeah,
obviously a very high achiever, so that would be definitely what she would do.
yeah, yeah. So I would push through and not really feel my emotions. And in fact, today a coworker got me irritated, so I took a moment and felt all of those emotions that I felt, and then so much better. It's made a huge difference. But yeah, I would just push through and I don't know, just head down on the road and just keep on going and
Right.
yeah.
Right. Which is what most women do. I think that most women don't allow themselves. I know for me growing up, certain emotions were just wrong. Like I couldn't feel certain emotions, or I would be kind of, I mean, my mom would be really upset with me for feeling an emotion, right? Like a human emotion. So, no, that's great, Dana. That's really, and of course, I would expect nothing more from you, being such an A type, to like, let's just get it done. And for those of you who are watching this, Dana's done a lot on her health, but actually, right after she was getting a lot of her body rebalanced and releasing stress, she actually ended up getting some sort of a knee injury. So she actually was forced to rest and put her leg up and actually had to ask for help, which we'll get to in a minute, which is usually a really like impossible thing for A type women to do, right? I mean, that's like the
Mhm.
last thing you want to do. So, well, let's dig into this next question because what methods, Dana, did you learn from us when you came to work with us that have been the most helpful for you? And dealing with stress, specifically in your career and your relationships. Like I mentioned, Dana is a loving wife and mother. So she doesn't just have her career going on, but she has, she's a mom and she's doing all of that. So it's almost like she has two lives, right? On top of other family and friends as well. So what methods did you find specifically? Because everybody that comes to work with us, they find different things, that really they needed or they found maybe surprisingly helpful. So what methods did you find when you came to work with us that was the most helpful for you in dealing with stress specifically, like in your career and working with your family?
Okay, the meditation, daily meditation. I tried it at night. It was kind of hard. I got up every morning early to do my meditation early. Now, this week, the start of school hasn't been my most thing, but basically, if I try not to miss a day, if I miss more than a day, it's like 2 days. But the daily meditation makes such a huge difference. And doing it in the morning, oh my goodness, you're ready to wake up in the morning. You've got a positive attitude, and at least if you go downstairs and anyone has a negative attitude, you're already on the plus side. So
Yeah.
that made the most difference. Now,
Mm,
the second most thing was feeling your feelings for about 10 minutes a day. I actually listened to a coaching call to do that, and that's the best way to do it. But that makes a huge difference because, like
mm,
today, I was frustrated. Sometimes at work you don't know exactly what you're doing. I'm kind of in that space, and so today I felt my feelings, and
yeah.
everything looked so much easier. So those two things
Mm,
make a huge difference,
right. Right.
and
'Cause
consistency.
it's easy to push forward, like you said, and just kind of, when something comes up, it's very easy. And I think a lot of us train ourselves to shelve it. Like, I'll deal with that later. I have more things to do. So I really commend you for that. That's amazing. Yes. And the meditations, Dana, I want to just celebrate Dana. So when Dana came in, we do have specific things we have everyone do. And she would write in her tracking every day, dealing, working with emotions, 10 minutes, meditation every day, 10 minutes, and consistently, right? We'll get people come in and they'll start it and they won't say much about it. Then we'll ask them about it. They'll do a little bit more, right? And Dana was like consistent, which I was really happy about because anybody that comes in and does that, they're going to see such massive improvements with just healing and their body. They're going to feel better because all the hormones and the chemicals you release from doing that meditation and not pushing down all that stress is
Mhm.
massive. So Dana was very consistent. Probably one of the most most consistent clients I think I've ever seen. Because normally it's, it's kind of, it's something you have to make time for. And a lot of people would rather just skip over that, and I felt emotions. I'm good, but to do that consistently is really powerful because that's when you get the benefit. And Dana did that weeks and weeks. I mean, she's still doing it and she has graduated from the program for a couple weeks now. So that's really phenomenal that you keep doing that. But thank you, Dana. That's great. Um, so the next question I want to ask yourself is one of the things we talk about and we work with people are the questions that we ask ourselves, right? A lot of times you'll have like a primary question, or some people call it self-talk. It's like you have your own world. I mean, all of us do, but when you're a successful woman, and for Dana, she's so busy, and that self-talk, right? It's really easy for Dana, for instance, to look so successful, and everyone would think, oh, Dana's great. Dana's fine. She shows up, she gets it done. She always looks amazing. But like, what was your internal world like? I think, before coming to see us, and then we'll talk about how you are now. But what was your internal world like before? Like, what questions did you ask yourself? Maybe like a primary question. I don't know if you even remember your original primary question, but what were they? And then how did that really affect your life? Because that's something I think most people don't look at, but that really is like your own world and dictates your life so much. So could you share a little bit about your questions and your self-talk?
Okay, so my primary question was, what am I doing wrong? I think was
It
kind of
was. I
my,
actually looked it up. I
um,
looked it up before you came on. Yeah, yeah. I
what
didn't
am
know
I
if you'd
what am I doing
remember because it's
wrong
been a
right now?
while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and actually, okay, so then I cheated. I made my primary question. I put it
Oh,
on little labels.
oh,
I've had
nice.
a label maker. Okay, if you get a label
Wow.
maker, you have to label things. Anyway,
Okay.
so I put it everywhere. So the only thing I
Okay.
found is that I need to move it around because you'll not see
Right.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
of
Well,
course,
that's amazing because like unless you have it on your phone or something, but that's even better because it's like right there when you're working. Or I love
yes,
that.
I have it on my, I have it. So I made a whole bunch of little labels and put them everywhere. And then now I need to move them. So my new question is, what am I doing great right now?
Oh,
Because I used to
nice.
be looking for, what
Mm,
was I doing wrong, especially at
right.
home and at work, because I'm in like a newish job. So what am I doing wrong? And if you look at what am I doing great right now, well, then you can spin it. Well, am I doing my best? Am I
Right.
working my hardest? Am I trying my best? Am I asking the questions? And even at home, what am I doing great right now to help my child succeed in middle school or get them to bed on time?
Right. Right.
So I
Smiling at him, not screaming.
yeah, yeah. So I put my question and I put it all over. The only thing I noticed is I need to move it because I have it in little labels all over the place. So I need to move them just half an inch because once you start looking at something, and so I don't know if I sit there and talk to myself as much about
Okay.
it, but if I sit there and I read it and I'm like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be asking myself. So I might still have the other questioner hanging out every once in a while, but not as much. And then yeah, my primary question, that's so funny because I totally remember it.
I love that. Well, being the CPA, that cracks me up because you're the detail. Like that's hilarious. I've never heard anybody be that. I mean, we're lucky if anybody just puts some time into it, but to put the labels around, that's amazing. I love that. And like you said, it's in all the little spots that you'll look. That's genius. I
Yeah, and then
love
if I
that.
move it around, it'll help more. Well, I did a cleaning system, Fly Lady, and she had Post-it. She's a big Post-it notes, and Post-it notes get in your way. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you feel like that's helped you overall with just, I mean, I don't know what your because I actually had a similar question to you, and I felt like that would really mess with my self-esteem a lot throughout my life, where I would be internally always saying, like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Like I could never celebrate myself. Like, what did you feel like before you changed this question? Did you have a habit of like always kind of moving to the next goal and not celebrating yourself? Or have you been pretty good with that? Because I would love to hear your experience and like what you feel has shifted a little bit since you've been putting those, notes around.
Well, so it was definitely, on to the next thing once you get
Yeah.
something done. So how can so my goal in life is to improve everybody else's life somehow magically. But I
Mhm.
think I was a little bit on the aggressive side of it. So like I would fix something and then I would look for the next thing to fix and the next thing to fix. And yeah, having my knee sitting down a lot, I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't have to fix it. The world still revolves. The house may or is still going to stand. It may or may not be clean. So yeah, I was going to go to the next thing and not really celebrate it. So this time, yeah, when I do something good, like I drove the other day. So I wrote down on the calendar that I drove. and it may be
Yes.
kind of silly, but yeah, so I try to
Yes.
schedule the
No, that's
whole
not
thing.
silly. See,
So,
that's the thing, and that's what I want, and I'm excited with helping and, working with women that have not been celebrating themselves. It's very easy to always go, okay, well, that's done. Goal. Okay, now I have 50 more goals, right? Like the next thing. Like, oh, I've had that on my list for a while. It's about time that got done. Instead of being like, wow, I did that. Like I could have just checked out. I could have not made that important and I stuck with that. Like I did it. I kept going in that celebration. Yeah, which I think is something you have to practice. Hopefully those
mhm,
questions help to lead you in that direction. But I
mhm,
do think that is like an A type perfectionist. I mean, you're very A type. I don't know if you're a perfectionist. I don't like to tell people unless they tell me. Okay. I was going to say it seems to me like you would be, but I want to hear from you first.
not in
Yeah.
everything. My husband and I are perfectionists in totally different things. So like
Oh,
if
okay.
I like am like an estimator and stuff, he's a
Okay.
perfectionist. So yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah. So you're a little more realistic, but I would say you're pretty intense with yourself with all the tracking and everything I
yeah.
saw. You definitely get it done. Yeah, and there's a struggle there to not sit and just be with the present moment of what you're doing and celebrating what you've done and really like letting that fit and fill you up because
Mhm.
as much as it's nice when people acknowledge you, I think the hardest part for A players like yourself is like I need to recognize myself. I need to give myself permission to celebrate. Like I need to give myself the celebrations that I deserve. Right? I mean, because you
Right.
work hard on yourself, you do a lot for yourself, and a lot of times people around you, they don't always tell you what you deserve. So I love that. I'm going to do the notes. I think I'm going to do that because I do know what you're saying. It's easy to forget, like what questions you're asking yourself, and especially if you have that new one. What are you
Mhm.
doing great right now? Right? I mean, I love that. Putting it around so you can see it. So then it kind of keeps that self-talk. You're retraining your brain. I love that. So next question I'd like you to answer really quick is, um, okay, we already answered that one. So I would love to hear your opinion, right, on women with burnout before we go to this last question. Because you've been a career woman for a long time. You've been very successful for a long time. You haven't just started a career, right? And you're a mom, you're a wife, and you've been balancing lots of things for a long time. What do you think is one of the root I mean, there's many things, of course, but what has been one of the things for you in your life that you've seen maybe in other colleagues that burns women out? Like, do you think it's maybe some stories we tell ourselves? Because I feel like in a man's world, you know, men, it's like the workplace is really kind of designed for this just go, 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 go. And like women have all these other responsibilities, like taking care of a family. Also, just hormonally, we're very different. What do you think are some of the main key triggers in burning women out? Like from your experience, especially doing some of this emotional work now.
So I think lots of women just say yes to things.
Okay.
So I have quite a few coworkers that would just take on more and more work, even if they couldn't do it. And
Right.
they just say yes. And I'm like, well, no, because then that makes everybody's life miserable, right?
Right.
You can't.
Right. That's true.
Um,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. So, what? Okay, tell me the question again. I lost my
So
train
just
of
I
thought.
would love to hear your opinion because with you being in your career for so long, and I'm sure you've worked with lots of different women, what have you seen? Because men will just go and go and go, and women tend to have this issue of like getting truly burned out, like they're just tired, like emotionally. And like, what do you think are some of the reasons, your
Oh,
opinion wise, of getting so burned out versus like how men can kind of just keep going,
well,
you
just
know?
generally, not in all households. So when I broke my knee, my husband had to take over the cooking, the cleaning, and
Yes,
everything
I
like
know.
that.
You told me.
So,
Uh-oh.
so I think that most women tend to, you work at home, you work at work, and then I work from home. So that means I end up doing the laundry and the cooking, most of the cleaning and stuff like that. So maybe not really having any boundaries and not really sharing the load, even at work or at home. So like I had colleagues at work that would take on too much work. So if I asked them if I could help them, they wouldn't share it even though they needed it because they needed to help. So I was one of those people that would always go to somebody and say, okay, what do you need help with? I can take on part of your load and do that. But lots of people don't know what they can't do. But
Okay.
I think that the women, not only is it, yeah, your professional life, but then also in personal, you just think you need to do it all. Like you need to do everything for everybody. And you know what? Life still goes on when you're sitting on the couch doing absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so yeah, so I think my knee was like a opportunity to learn
Okay.
to sit to another way to learn that you need to just take some time and just take care of yourself. So I
Yes.
don't think anybody really.
That right there is huge. That's what I mean, I know for myself, like all my life, there's always that pressure to, take care of everybody, but taking care of yourself. Yes, and light and self-interest.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. How did you handle that with your knee specifically? Because it sounds like you're pretty good at work. So you're pretty good at delegating. I mean, you're a CPA. So I
I'm good at
guess
getting at work.
you're pretty calculative.
Yeah.
Okay, so you haven't been the say yes. Like have you struggled with it? Did you maybe like before, maybe when you first started out of like saying yes to everything and you just learned over time, or did you kind of just know because you're kind of the analytical mind? Like, no, I'm not going to say yes to everything. It doesn't make sense.
No, I said yes to quite a few things. Lost out on like a new job opportunity because I was too
Okay.
busy doing a job like way early in my
Oh,
career. So
okay.
I took on too much and then I couldn't take on the job that I was supposed to be. I don't know. Anyway, so backfired. So
Okay. So there's
so
consequences.
the
So you
consequences
learn,
there,
you
yeah.
learn by saying
Yeah.
yes to everybody, then you're like, wait a second. Oh, okay.
So I
Yes.
try to be the person that makes life easy for everything. So if somebody asks me to do something, I will
Yeah.
totally do it. If I feel like I
Yeah.
can't do it, I'll still totally do it. But if I get overwhelmed at some point, I will raise my hand and ask
Okay.
for help. At work.
Okay.
At home, not so much. At home, I'll just
Okay.
keep doing it and doing it and expect everyone to magically chip in.
Okay.
Magic doesn't happen at home like that. The
Yeah.
dogs don't fill their own food bowls. Like, yeah,
No,
so,
that's very true. Yes. They're all looking to mom, right?
yeah,
Like there's
yeah,
only one mom and like mom needs to come in and make sure everyone's taken care of. Yeah,
yeah.
for
So,
sure.
so I think that's it. Because you may even be able to delegate at work, but if you can't delegate at home
Mm-hmm.
too, then
Yes.
it all bleeds together. And since,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I love that. Well,
Mhm,
and I was going to ask you that too, like how is it different at work versus home, or is it kind of in the same? So it's a little bit different for you because I think
mhm,
some women are like they bring the same habits they are at they have at home to work and from work to home, where they don't set boundaries, they don't feel like they can,
right.
right? So for you to say that, it's really important because otherwise your body starts breaking down, right? Somewhere something's going to give if you're not loving yourself and taking care of yourself. Do you have certain things? So you do meditation. Could you just share anything else that you do with women that you have found really helpful to stay centered? So you can give because you're a giver. Like you're very much, it sounds like to me, I know your emotional needs, but it sounds like you're actually really high in contribution. I don't know if you've considered that. You
Yeah,
sound really high in
but I wasn't,
contribution.
but I wasn't quite there yet. That's
Okay. Oh,
my
so
goal.
now
That's
you've
my
probably
goal, right?
shifted. Oh,
Right.
okay. Because
So
it sounds like you are.
yeah, so I was exercising regularly until about 6 months ago, even before I hurt my knee. So my goal is to go back to that because that made a huge
Right.
difference. So I'd stop at lunch and exercise and um before I hurt my knee, I would walk outside every day with the dogs. Of course, the dogs, what did it? My dog pulled me down and made me fall, protecting me, but he's a good dog. So
Oh,
but
he
just
didn't
taking
mean to
that
hurt
time.
mom.
Yeah, no, he's a good kid. And then I read what was it? They had a thing at work. Lots of people read nonfiction. I can't handle
Right.
it. I read some self-help, but then I always have a fiction book going
Yeah.
to kind
So
of space
that makes sense
out.
because you're so analytical. So you have to have that creative. You have to have that like that fantasy. So you can kind of like, yes,
Yeah,
stay balanced.
that's my zone out. So I got to read a lot this summer while I was on the
Oh,
couch.
good. Okay.
Um, not cooking and cleaning. um,
Because you couldn't. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
I love
And
it.
you know what? And finding that you couldn't do it was almost like a relief. And going back to having to do it is kind of like, okay, I've got to make sure that I find that balance going back because I don't want to go back to where I was. But it is interesting that I had a hard stop, and now I
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
yeah reboot.
Yeah. Do you think one last question before we close out? Do you think part of do you believe that maybe there was a reason that thing happened with your knee because maybe you didn't give yourself enough time at home to rest? Like at work, you're like, okay, I've learned to delegate. I don't want to take on too much so I can be successful. Like at home, do you feel like you shifted a little bit on your expectations for yourself since this knee? situation? Like maybe you're not going to demand so much of yourself? Like,
Yes, exactly.
okay,
I always try to look for the silver lining, but
yeah,
this time I really think there was one because I was going and going and going, and my husband had been working a whole bunch because he's a teacher at the end of the school year. Um, and so I think this gave me the opportunity to see that maybe I was doing way too much than I needed to do, and that either I need to share the load
yeah.
or things just don't need to happen. My floors were not mopped for 8 weeks, and you know what? The world did not end. I might have, thought it was going to end.
Every day Dana's going,
Like, the floors. Um,
I'm just going
so
to ignore them, right? Yeah.
yes, my best. So I think I think it was an opportunity for me to just kind of chill out, and maybe sometimes you need something kind of abrupt and extreme because I've never broken anything in my entire life. I've only been hospitalized for like kid stuff. So really, yeah, I think it was God telling me that I needed to take a break and
Mm,
reprioritize what I thought was important. And maybe
right,
I love organizing, I love making things better and stuff, but maybe my house doesn't need to be 100%
right.
efficient and organized. Maybe it can
Mm,
just be messy.
mm.
Hmm,
I
Not.
need to hear that. I need to hear that. I think so much of the time us women are always focused on what we need to do or what we like didn't
Mhm.
get done. So I love that. That's really, really, really powerful. Well, we're just about up. We actually went about 5 minutes after. I want to respect Dana's time. But for those of you listening in today, thank you so much, Dana, for sharing your story. I hope a lot of you were very inspired by Dana, some of the lessons she's learned over the years, and some of the takeaways that she had working with us. Some practices. I think one thing I really got from Dana today is how she has certain things she's doing consistently, right? She's thinking about her new question. She's really aware of what she's thinking about in her self talk. She's doing that meditation every day consistently, and she's doing her best to feel emotions also in the moment, right? Not just sitting in the morning and feeling, but like throughout the day, because that's what's really going to keep things from building up. And then your body and your subconscious giving you this big warning sign, like you need to deal with this now. Or if you don't, we're going to break the subconscious will bring up challenges, right? Challenges in the form of lots of things, not always health, but sometimes just challenges in life, things that you can't really fix. Like I'm a fixer too, and you're stuck
Mhm.
with, I got to deal with the emotion. And I have a past of this as well, being forced almost to have to face emotions because I so didn't for so many years. So thank you, Dana, for sharing all of this. I really appreciate it. Really quick before we end, guys, those of you listening today, if you are feeling the effects of massive stress, right, from social pressures in your career. If you're a high achieving, high performance woman and you're just burned out, you're exhausted, you're drained, you're always giving so much, like Dana, you go home and it doesn't end, right? You have like another job at home and then you go to your job at work and it's just this like, you don't really get a break, right? And you feel like you would love to have some tools, right? You're exhausted, and you don't want to step down from your job because you've worked so hard for it. Like Dana has worked so hard on her career and all these different degrees. That's years of education, certifications, pouring into all these different skill sets. And for those of you out there who feel drained, you deserve to be able to keep doing the things that you're made to do and you're good at. And the workplace needs you too, instead of just burning out and stepping down from your dream. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up too for Dana. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and thank you so much, Dana, for
Oh,
joining us
thank
today. I really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.